Hi, how are you? Welcome back, thanks for joining me. Hasn't the start to 2021 been a strange one? It's been a bit full on for me, to be honest. Obviously with a full-time job working from home and also schooling 3 children with my wife, potentially for the next 2 months as well. It's been quite a full-on start to the year. Not only that, but trying to stay motivated during these dark mornings, dark evenings, and the weather here in the UK has been particularly bad since the start of the year, with really wet and now really muddy conditions, making it even more of a difficulty to get motivated and get out the door, especially when it's dark first thing in the morning. But I wanted to do a quick review of last year's stats and figures that I have accumulated, and I wanted to just have a look through those numbers and see if they managed to spur me on, and also see if they're going to vary in any way for the year ahead. So let's get on with it. So what did you do with your 2020? Did you start strong and then fall off the wagon? Or did you finish strong in the hope that 2021 would be back to normal, bring some normality, with the possibility of progressing and putting some of that hard work into some of your challenges, or even the possibility of entering some races? Put your answers down in the comments below, because I'd love to know what you did, what you're getting up to, and especially the beginning half of this year. What are you doing to stay motivated? Either way, last year was a strange year, not only for me, but for everyone. And when it came to running, it was particularly frustrating for a lot of us, disappointing, non-rewarding, and difficult to keep motivated. And for me, and probably a lot of people out there, it was one of my longest training blocks ever. I've never done a whole year without actually putting that into practice, or in a race scenario testing myself. At the beginning of 2020, I did have a few small trail races booked, but as things progressed with the pandemic, they were slowly cancelled as we went through the year, to a point where they were all cancelled, and I didn't bother booking anything towards the latter half of last year. I just accepted that it wasn't going to happen and continued to stay running, stay fit, and look at any other goals that I could achieve. I started to see the virtual events kick off, and to be honest, at the beginning I wasn't motivated to do them. I saw that it would just be me still running on my own, and seeing my name on a computer screen leaderboard, which didn't really mean anything. I missed the community spirit, running with like-minded people, enjoying the banter that you have when you're out on a race, the marshals and the checkpoint crew that make so much of these events what they are. But towards the end of the year, the virtual events had been in full flow by that point, so I finally succumbed and entered the Centurion Running One Community event. I think it was in December last year, and I took on the 100-mile challenge, and you can watch how I ran 100 miles in a week for that challenge in one of my other videos that I've already done. And on reflection, that actually motivated me to keep going and had some purpose solely for that week, but also the few weeks running up to that, in which I pre-booked it. I knew that I had something to focus on, I knew what I needed to do and how I would allocate my time to that week to achieve the goal. So in hindsight, it was actually a worthwhile endeavour, and I am looking to do something similar for the beginning of this year, certainly to keep me motivated. So here are some of my stats, and I've just got these off Strava at the end of the year. I'm sure most of you are aware Strava do your own year summary, and they cover a whole aspect of parameters. So I've gathered some of those highlights, and we'll just go through them now just out of interest. Some of them interested me, some of them didn't surprise me, but let's have a look. So my total active days was 181 days being active. I would say 95% of that, maybe higher, was dedicated to trail running. That's all I do. I don't do anything else. I do a small amount of swimming, but that wouldn't contribute. I don't do any road cycling, and I do the occasional mountain biking. I did dabble into Zwift during the first lockdown between March and May last year, and that would account for the other 5%, swimming, Zwift, mountain biking. Total time active is apparently 312 hours. Not much to say about that, other than I guess it's fairly close to almost an hour a day. So that's a positive, and that's what I'll take away from that. We'll see what it is at the end of this year. And the next one's quite interesting. My most active time of day is between 6 and 7 a.m. And that does make sense to me. I do prefer the mornings. I tend to not want to go out in the evenings unless I absolutely have to, or if I want a challenge that I haven't been able to get out in the morning and I need to get the miles in, then I will do it in the evening. But yes, between 6 and 7 is my peak time to start a run. If it's a longer run, I tend to start earlier than that, towards 5:30 a.m. The next one was what I was interested in, that was total distance throughout the year. And that managed to come in at 2,192 miles. And to be honest, that surprised me. I didn't have a goal at the beginning of 2020 on a set distance that I wanted to cover. And obviously the majority of that was done through trail running. And towards the end of the year, November time, I noticed that it was getting close to the 2,000 mile mark. So that Centurion 1 event did help push it just over that. So I'm pleased I made it. And for 2021, I'm just going to set it as 2,000 miles again. I know that's achievable without thinking about it too much. And with the ambitions I have this year, it should be fine to cover. My longest activity was 63 miles. So that must have been in the summer, I think. I decided I wanted to go and do my own ultra, self-supported. So that's what I did. Locally run, plotted the route, and went out and did 63 miles. Half of it was on the Cotswold Way, which is local to me, and then the other half was sort of on the Severn Way, which runs along the Severn Way, which runs along the River Severn canal paths back to where I live. That activity taught me a lot, especially about running long distance self-supported routes. How much fuel you actually need to take when you don't have checkpoints or fuel stations along the way. So for me, 63 miles, I did that in probably, I don't know, it was probably between 10 hours, 11 hours. And I do recall that I did run out of fuel. I took 2 litres in a water bladder and 2 500ml flasks at the front. I made some sandwiches, I had gels, I had trail bars, I had a malt loaf, fruit, and on the food side it was okay, but the fluid side it was not. And I remember coming through Gloucester, the northern port, which was halfway through roughly, having to find a Tesco Express and buying bottles of water, bottles of Lucozade and Red Bull. And I also remember stopping at a canal side cafe for a ice cream and a Coke on the way home as well. So yeah, that self-supported 63 miles was a learning experience and a valuable one. Next one is average pace. It says it was 9 minutes 20. Obviously that's taken into account all of my trail runs and averaging them all out. So 9 minutes 20, it's a figure to me. It doesn't really mean anything because out on the trails you're running at different paces all the time, depending on the elevation, the distance you're running, all comes into account. The next one interests me just as much as total distance, and that was total elevation gained throughout the year. And this one came in at 192,067 feet. Now this was a surprise to me. I mean, I know that I like hills, I like running hills. And being a trail runner, you can't avoid hills. And I do put a lot of time and effort into running hills because I do enjoy them. And this is in preparation for the longer or more hillier routes that I have my sights set on in the future, or the races that I was booked into to competing in. So for 2021, I'm tempted to aim for 200,000 feet. So we'll see how we get on. But that was a nice figure to know, and I enjoyed it. And finally, my hilliest activity was a 50-mile virtual ultra that I also did self-supported, and that one was just under 7,000 feet over the 50 miles. So that was just another nice figure to add to my elevation gains over the year. I also thought I'd quickly go over my running shoes and what sort of miles they've covered since I've had them since new. This isn't the miles they've done last year, although obviously nearly 2,000 miles of that has contributed towards them. I'll cover properly in another video my obsession with HOKA shoes. I've solely used HOKA shoes since I transitioned from running on the road to trail running due to their comfort and their fit. And personally for me, I've been obsessed with the HOKA Speedgoats for the last 3 revisions. So I own the Speedgoat 2s, 3s and 4s. And for the more aggressive, I use the HOKA Evo Jaws for the more aggressive trail running, which at this time of the year in the UK is very muddy and wet, and the grip is far more superior than that of the Speedgoat. I've also just recently deviated away from the Speedgoats and bought my first pair of Mafate Speed 3s. They're still fresh out the box, not to be worn yet. I think I'm too nervous about getting them dirty, so I'm waiting for it to dry up a little bit, or be a very nice frosty morning where I can take them out and try them properly. So with the stats on the screen, what you'll be able to see is the amount of miles I've done so far, and I'm still using all of my shoes that are on the screen here. How many miles I've done in them, and obviously the first 2 pairs, the Speedgoat 2s and the 3s, that was when I was still new to trail running, so I would buy a pair and wear them into the ground essentially, and then buy another pair. And what I tend to do now is I have 2 on the go. So I've got the Speedgoat 4s and I was using the Speedgoat 3s. Now I've got the Mafate Speed 3s, so I'm going to use 2 pairs at the same time. One will be my main pair and my other will be a backup, and that way it just makes your pairs of shoes last longer. But the Speedgoat 3s, as you can see, have done way more miles than any others, and that was when I really focused and decided trail running was for me, and I just tried to use them into the ground essentially, and yeah, that's why there's so many miles on them. I don't tend to use them that often anymore, but I can't bring myself to throw them away. So that's it really. That's my year in review. That's a summary of last year's activities on my behalf and what I got out of it. So what I'd like to know from you guys in the comments below is, what was your highlight of last year? What are you most proud of? Was it the mileage that you did, the elevation that you did? You set a new PR for one of your trail runs or routes? What is it that you have taken away from last year and you're taking into 2021 to keep you motivated and positive throughout your trail running experience and adventures this year? Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next video.